Hello Cube heads, I'm Kinglink and this is my last look and review of Q.U.B.E 2, which is Q.U.B.E and the number 2, or Quick Understanding of Block Extrusion 2, if the abbreviation means the same thing as the first game. Now this is a sequel to a puzzle game that I adored in 2011. It was a simple game about pulling blocks out of the wall and figuring out how to get through a series of puzzle rooms. It's easy to compare to Portal, but it had its own charm and interesting level design. Really, it's only the focus on a cube block that is really similar between the two games, as well as the fact that they both have puzzle rooms. But Portal gets the views, and it's a common comparison that I believe even they have made. Now this is a sequel to that original Cube game, so let's see how it measures up. Now graphically, this is night and day. Q.U.B.E 2 looks great. The walls are nicely textured and there's a lot of interesting parts of the game. And the game is clean, which is important for a puzzle game, but it's still visually appealing, at least to me. There are some interesting locations to check out as you progress through the game, and there are a few great level designs, but most of the game will look similar by the end of the game. The beautiful vistas like the tree garden in the first look area are sadly rare in this game. Still, enjoy the video. I'm going to be taking you through the 4th chapter of the game, where we now have the complete abilities of the player gaining that 3rd block type that you see at the beginning of this. One thing I think Q.U.B.E 2 does is have distinct puzzle areas and story areas. It sounds acceptable, but it creates pacing problems. There's moments where the game just wants to focus on the story, and moments where there's a puzzle in your face, and the two really don't cross over. The original Q.U.B.E also struggled with its narrative elements, and the original release was focused only on the puzzles. The director's cut added in story on top of the original puzzle game, and the end result felt like it was an afterthought. While Q.U.B.E 2's story was definitely written at the same time as it was being designed, it has a similar feeling. The story is a bit obvious at times too. Q.U.B.E 2 is a puzzle game with a story, so of course there's a twist, and the opening lines are a bit of foreshadowing. It's just the story itself really never stands out. It throws vague statements at times and then pulls back the sheet with a major reveal with a flourish, but it doesn't really work. I will say I felt something from the story and it evoked emotions, but it just doesn't feel integrated with the game properly. There's just moments of some dialogue and then a focus on the puzzles. Ultimately, I don't think I like story in puzzle games. The goal of a puzzle game is to solve puzzles, but many rather simple puzzle games try to force a story on the player and it doesn't really enhance the game. In the written review, I go farther into this and admit, yes, I have pushed for story where I probably shouldn't have, but it's still not the best experience. It's definitely not good when it takes away from the puzzles, and let me say this, Q.U.B.E 2 has a great puzzle system. Q.U.B.E 2 seems to be deceptively simple. It starts with the normal blue bounce pads from the original game and at first just has the player do some light platforming, but the game gets the ability to place a single blue pad soon. From there, there's a red extrude function, at least that's what I call it, but you can see me as I pull a column out of the wall for me to stand on. Finally, there's a green space that summons an additional brick, which you'll see me get in this chapter. Now, each of these is your base power in the game. There's only 3, which seems light, and even the original game had a 4th type in the wall for most of the game. But the amount that Q.U.B.E 2 does with all 3 placements is impressive. The 3 blocks can be placed on specific surfaces as you see me doing in the game. In fact, I'll be playing with them a bit so we can see some different stuff than just the solution. There are also triggerable blocks in the game, and they can do a number of things, ranging from dropping balls, moving walls, or rotating the scenery. Each has a purpose, and the fact is, it creates really inventive puzzles. The chapters in the first look in this are relatively easy. I don't want to go too far in the game to avoid spoiling much, but I can say this game gets a little more complex. Nothing too hard, mind you, and in fact, the puzzle design really shines here. With only 3 placeable blocks and only a limited number of locations the blocks can be placed in, there's not a huge difficulty here. In fact, every location that a block can be placed in has a reason. While this might disappoint fans, it also enhances the analytical thinking of the player. In many games, if a player doesn't have the solution, it's sometimes very hard to find it. However, in Q.U.B.E, the puzzle allows the player to be a little more analytical and question the design of the room. The smaller problem space as well means there's only a certain number of moves that are possible and needs to be considered. And from there, reaching that aha moment where the spark of inspiration strikes will never be that far off. In addition, the right solution to almost every level feels very clean. It's obvious what the intent of the creators were, and it's simple to explain the solution once you've arrived at it, though it's very interesting to puzzle it out as you play. So, with great puzzles, it's a great game, right? Well, yes, but it has a rather big flaw. Cube 2 is rather short. There's 11 chapters, and I've heard 80 puzzles in the game. That sounds sizable, but I was able to rush through 3 chapters in the first look. That's under 30 minutes, and I was not really rushing that much. Players are able to beat the game in about 6 hours, and I took closer to 10 when I really took my time and replayed some sections, got all the achievements, but, well, after you're done with the game, there's not much more to do it. There's no additional rooms unless you've already had the season pass or the DLC, and the puzzles don't really have a second way to be solved. You're doing the same thing a second time. The thing is, it's a $25 game, which is really high for what it offers, and that's what I struggle with. It doesn't make Cube 2 awful, but the value proposition is a bit off in my mind. It's some of the cleanest and well-designed puzzles, but I want more. The first half of the game is really easy and short, and I just want maybe another 50% of the game of the great puzzles that the second half of the game has. The story doesn't really make up for the length, and yeah, it's just a limited game. I give Cube 2 a 3 out of 5. You know, I really like the first game, and Cube 2 isn't bad, but I find it hard to tell someone to grab this game for $25, even as a really big puzzle fan. You know, I've gotten 2 copies of it recently, one on Twitch Prime, one on Humble Monthly Bundle, so at least I could play it. But maybe that means the price will be dropping soon, or at least be in more sales. But personally, I find it pricey. That's my honest opinion. And that's Cube 2. Coming up next, well, we'll look at another indie title. This one from a very small group, a guy, his brother, and a friend. It's Misadventures in the Alps, when ski lifts go wrong. And if you've enjoyed this review, are looking forward to that, or just want to see what's coming up next, consider subscribing. I appreciate and welcome you to the Hyrulean Nights. Until next time, I'm Kinglink, and thank you for watching.